Hello, and welcome to the Way Show. My name is Wole. It's nice to be here with you again today. How was your week? It's a new week, it's Sunday. How was your week? How did it go for you? I hope it was really beautiful. Okay. Please, like I always say, if this is the first time you're watching the show, don't forget to subscribe. It's the Way Show Weekly on YouTube channels, and obviously we're on Instagram and on Facebook. Don't forget to subscribe to us, and don't forget to also tell someone about us. All right, tell someone about the Way Show. Today we've got someone very exciting joining us on the show. Someone who is a CEO of so many companies. Okay, he's a serial technology entrepreneur. He's a founder. Like I said, he's a CEO. He is someone very interesting. And hopefully our discussion today is going to be interesting and obviously going to be very beneficial to you because we're going to be talking about agriculture, real estate, transportation, and obviously technology and general stuff. As it might affect you watching. I'm talking about Onyeka Akumah. Onyeka is the CEO of Farmcrowdy. Onyeka, thank you so much for joining us. I know I've had to drag you from watching your beloved Man United. So, like I said to you, don't worry about Man United for today. And the worst that can happen is that you guys are going to win today. Okay, so don't worry about Man United. You have to. That's what he said. You have to.
Thanks for having me, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me here on the show.
Thank you, Yinka. Let us start. Since Man United is like your beloved, let us start by so far. Have you been impressed with what's been going on with Man United so far this season?
It's been a bit up and down. I mean, so I was saying to my friends and colleagues in the office that if Man United finishes second, that's actually an improvement from last year. The reason I support Manchester United is because we have that never say die attitude, and in the days of Alex Ferguson, which is translating to what is happening maybe slightly with Ole, if we know what we want to get and we're ready to pay for what we need to do to get that done. We don't talk. The other teams that are very, I call them emotional teams. They just play on people's emotions and they talk up and down. We don't talk that much. We focus on doing it and getting it done. Let me not start a fight.
Also, I'm ready to pick that fight because I'm a Chelsea fan. So I wanted to say, what do you mean by talking about emotionally talking? Listen, you guys have been really lucky this season. All right, penalties, especially with Bruno Fernandes. That is always putting the ball in the net by a penalty. So well, we'll see how it finishes this season. And we'll see.
That's
but
fine.
Anyway, good luck to Man United. Anyway,
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Obviously, we're not going to be talking about football today, not Man United. We're going to be talking about your first love. And can I start by asking you this, Onyeka? Were you originally a farmer, or did farming run in the family? Why I ask this question is why Farmcrowdy?
So the thing is, I first was a technology person, and an entrepreneur focused on technology. Farmcrowdy wasn't my first startup. My first startup was QuickGist, which was a social news aggregator that I sold within a year after starting it. I think I consider myself first an entrepreneur, and grew up in a family where I had a mom that tells me, or used to tell me in my teenage years, that I needed 4 streams of income to be wealthy. And my 9 to 5 was just one of them. However, she would tell us also that in your 9 to 5, you have to be the best in your job so that you don't even compromise that for the other 3 streams of income. I had a dad who had his own practice. My dad always had, I grew up with him having his own practice. My dad started running his own practice, a medical doctor from 1990 till date. You know, so I maybe grew up in that setting of entrepreneurship, and then also grew up in a place where I was told that for everything I needed to get, I needed to work with my hands to create the wealth I wanted. So if I mean, I was 12, I wanted a bicycle. My mom told me to raise day-old chicks, sell them, and then make money. I wanted to buy a computer at 15. I started a recharge card center, sold the recharge cards, bought the speaker, bought the keyboard, bought several things. So, I mean, I took it to a point where every skill I learned, I used it to try to make wealth for myself. Now, bringing that to agriculture, in 2011, sorry, was it 11? Yes, 11. I decided that there were three sectors in Africa, in Nigeria, starting with Nigeria, but in Africa as a whole, that I wanted to focus on how technology was going to have an impact in people's lives. One was agriculture, two was real estate, and three was transportation. So I had this since 2011 as my focus areas where I was going to use my skill set in technology. So I finished from school. I went to an Indian university called Sikkim Manipur University, and I had a first class in software engineering, right? And so I understood how to code. I was really good at that, but I also understood how to design websites. And for me, that was more of where I made my money from. So by 2011, this 5 years after school, which was 2011, or 6 years after school, 5 or 6 years after school, I then focused on agriculture, real estate, and transportation, places that I want to use technology to have impact on people's lives. So the opportunity came in 2015, where everybody wanted to be a farmer, but not everybody wanted to carry hoe and cutlass and get to the farm. I wanted to invest in agriculture, and that led me to then founding Farmcrowdy. So that was how I got into Farmcrowdy and all the other businesses I've been with. That was the history behind them.
That's brilliant. And the thing about farming and technology, as far as Africa is concerned, obviously zooming into Nigeria, is usually the issue of connectivity. You think about how many people have got access to the connection, to internet connectivity, how many people have got the equipment themselves, mobile phone and whatever. But thankfully, we've got quite a lot of the population always on their phone anyway, one smartphone or the other. If it's not an expensive one, obviously it's going to be a cheaper version. So tell me how you've been able to capture those, zero into this population, and obviously capture the imagination and everything, and then encompass it to set up Farmcrowdy, as it were.
Okay, so the agriculture value chain is a massive one. I mean, agriculture contributes about 22% of Nigeria's total GDP every year. It's going up gradually. At the time we started, it was around 21%. So an extra 1%. That's a massive industry, and you have different sectors in that different parts of the value chain that people can play in. You can play in the production side, and in the production side, you can be an input provider. You can be a technical expert that provides the knowledge to improve the yields. You can be the farmer yourself. Now that's where the farmers actually sit. Across other parts of the value chain, in the marketing, distribution, in the logistics chain, all of that contributes to the entire agriculture ecosystem. So when we started Farmcrowdy, we decided to focus on one aspect of that value chain, which was financing the inputs that the farmers will need to work with on their farm. Because one thing we found when we started Farmcrowdy was that farmers, people in the value chain, the food value chain, struggled to access funding from banks. And so finding a way to connect them with the right kind of funding was our priority in Farmcrowdy. So we started on that note. Now, we didn't want to go to the banks, which is what we're doing at the moment. But then we didn't want to go to the banks. And so we wanted to get all those individuals that are excited about investing in agriculture to come on our platform, identify the farmers or the farm projects they want to participate in, and then invest in them. So that was the model we started with, financing the farmers. It evolved from there into not just financing their core production, but also training them on how to improve the yields from their farms. It then moved from there to getting the farmers to also find the right market to sell what they've produced in order to get decent margins from their farms. And that became the Farmcrowdy ethos for about 2 to 3 years of our business, where we got the financing, provided technical expertise, we provided market to sell. Within that period, we grew to about 25,000 farmers within our network. Started with 2,000, got to 7,000, and then got to 25,000. But last year, we remodeled completely and stopped the crowdfunding element. We stopped it in August 2019. But last year was when we remodeled completely and said the most common thing that Farmcrowdy had going for it was technology, and how technology was going to support the entire value chain as against those first three things I mentioned. So what we then did was to start creating technology for people to access finance, but beyond crowdfunding finance, we're now accessing finance from the banks, from state governments, from large donors, to connect the farmers with this finance, which is a lot more 2 to 5 years, as against getting finance on the crowdfunding model that puts you in a 3 to 6 month cycle. We started providing insurance, we started providing technical expertise, we started providing market access for the farmers. So, but all this was now powered with technology, and the first basis for us to do that was sign up farmers in our cooperative, in our network, and then provide all this access to them. So those were the things we did, and now we currently have just over 400,000 farmers across Nigeria, and we're looking to replicate the same model in East Africa, which we'll be starting off with shortly, and then other countries.
And something struck me when I was obviously having a short research about farming, and especially in Africa. And there's this UN report on farming that said farming is actually worth, not farming, actually food production itself is actually a $1.3 trillion business. Okay, yeah. So between 2020 to 2030, that's huge. Huge amount of amount coming in from food production and farming. How does this trickle down to that farmer in Ibusa, that farmer in Kano, that farmer in Akure, or in my hometown? How does that trickle down to helping them, to making sure that, all right, I've got all my seeds, I've got all my farming equipment, I've got what I need to make my harvest large and obviously more profitable?
Yeah. Now, to that farmer, the easiest way we can get value to him from 1.3 trillion to get to that farmer and make him wealthy is for the farmer to first join a network like what we have in Farmcrowdy. Because the network we have, it goes beyond the farmer. So you mentioned that these farmers may not have smartphone devices, they may not have laptops, they have just normal phones, but they still need to do business, right? When they are now within a network where I approach the man that wants to sell seeds, say he's a maize farmer or a corn farmer, and he wants to buy one bag of corn to plant. But he goes to the kiosk, to the farmer's kiosk, and then he says he wants to buy 1,000 bags. Let's say 1,000 bag is $100. It's never $100, but let's just say for this conversation, it's $100, right? And what the farmer then does is he negotiates with that guy, and maybe he gets it for $95, and then he goes his way. With that farmer in our network, when Farmcrowdy goes to negotiate with that same dealer, in fact, we won't even negotiate with the dealer, we'll negotiate with the producers, because we're not going as individual farmers. We're going as maybe a farmer community of 25,000 farmers that want to buy 1,000 bags each. At that point, I can get for that farmer 20% margin on the input cost. He starts making money from there. I'm saving him money. At the point of training and learning what to improve and do on the farm to get better, a network like ours is what makes it beneficial for the farmer to know what are the steps to take that makes your process of farming better than what you've been used to for the last 20 years, right? And then immediately a farmer moves from producing 2 metric tons from 1 hectare to producing 4 metric tons from 1 hectare, for instance. At the end of the harvest season, prior to him harvesting, a network like ours in Farmcrowdy would then negotiate with the buyers. Now, we will make money obviously from there, but our focus is first that the farmer makes money and is not caught up by all the other players that want to take up the margins from the farmers. Because in each farmer we convert, and our goal is to make sure the farmers make at least 80% increase in their income annually compared to what they were doing on their own. So if we can achieve 80% with 400,000 farmers that are making 80% more, we see ourselves meeting our goals. And that's what farmers within a network like a Farmcrowdy will benefit from. That way, that farmer would start taking his own little chunk from that big pie, as against him doing it on his own.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, so the other thing that comes to mind is obviously growing up, especially growing up in the western part of Nigeria, I grew up to know about some farming communities, farming association, as it were. Obviously, they've come together. People like the Agbekoyas and what have you. How have you been able to sell, so to say, as it were, Farmcrowdy to people like that? Obviously, people that are set in the way of thinking. This is the way our forefathers been doing it for thousands of years. So why would one small boy from somewhere now come with Farmcrowdy and come and sell us this idea? And you know the way we think. So how were you able to convince them to say, listen, guys, this is actually going to be very profitable for you guys in the long run?
Yeah, initially we struggled with that. It wasn't easy convincing the farmers. We had so many issues convincing them. But over time, what we then found was farmers are businessmen and women. If you show them where to make more money, the language is not a barrier. Their intelligence is intact. The farmer knows what he needs to do. They are brilliant people. Even if they don't speak English, it doesn't affect their intelligence, right? So once they see how they can make more money on a project, they would move with you. So what we then started doing was a lot of demonstration farms. We started with demonstration farms, then we started going after what we call ambassadorial farmers. So if a farmer works with Farmcrowdy, for instance, and is able to now move from walking on the road to riding a bike to driving a car, obviously things are better for him. And then 2 is he's put his seed on the ground. The other farmer that refused to work in our network has put his seed in the ground. Based on the Farmcrowdy model, this farmer gets better inputs to plant. He gets better practice to include on his project that allows him to then get better yields. So that guy puts seed in the ground. He doesn't believe in your technical expertise that you're bringing. He doesn't want to touch your inputs, even when you've done a lot of analysis of the soil and analysis of the area to see that this input will give you better yields. At the end of the day, when harvest comes, the results shows that farmer A that refused to join us or refused to learn or refused to improve his service will get maybe 2 metric tons of commodity. Now, the farmer makes money based on how many tons you get. He gets 2 metric tons and he's selling it at 80,000 naira, or he's selling it at maybe $200. Farmer B comes through the Farmcrowdy network and he's getting 4 metric tons. And instead of even selling it at 80,000 naira per ton or $200 per ton, he's selling for 90,000. So he's making, on the same seed we put in the ground, he's making 4x, he's making 2x what the other farmer is making. It's what has helped us win a lot of them into our network. The second thing is that as soon as we started focusing on using technology as the bedrock for engaging with farmers, a lot of these associations started finding Farmcrowdy as a better way of profiling their farmers. So you have a network, an association of maybe 5,000 maize farmers in Oyo or 5,000 maize farmers in Iseyin. And initially, they used to access funding from the bank but they will go to the bank just directly as association farmers, and they have to deal with the banks to raise the money. And then they have issues around who's your farmer, have you profiled them, do they meet the criteria for the banks? And maybe that database is shrunk down by 60%, and you only have roughly about 2,000 farmers in that network that eventually access funding. Associations see in Farmcrowdy where we're able to use our technology to get the biometrics data of the farmer, the historical data of the historical financial data of the farmer, historical operational data of the farmer, geo mapping of the farmer's farm, and all this information then comes together where if you're able to also connect them with a bank, they can have bank verification numbers for farmers in Nigeria. And this makes this farmer very suitable for the type of farmer that you can then access, provide funding for. So those associations see that benefit in us and then bring their farmers within our network to connect them with opportunities, like I've mentioned.
Would Farmcrowdy also be involved in that extended ecosystem of probably assisting the farmer to get his food, his or her food, across the shores of Nigeria, probably outside, exporting and out? How does that work?
Yeah, so in Farmcrowdy, we now have five businesses. One focuses on structured finance, which accesses monies from banks and donors in large sums to get the farmers working. Patient capital against states between 2 and 5 years. We have Farmcrowdy Insurance that provides, in addition to the inputs the farmers are getting, they get insurance packages that covers their health, property, life, and health, property, life, and crop insurance, as against just getting crop insurance that the farmers used to get in the past. That becomes tremendous value for farmers in the network. We also have Farmcrowdy Data and Tech, which provides all the data I was talking about earlier on. We have Farmcrowdy Foods for the B2C side. But we have what we call Farmcrowdy Aggregation. So one other business for this is Farmcrowdy Marketing that helps different stakeholders in the food value chain to connect with the kind of branding and marketing that Farmcrowdy has. If a small player wants to, when I say small player, maybe an ag tech platform or an agribusiness wants to have strong branding, you want to do plantain chips better, you want to do social media campaigns around that, the Farmcrowdy marketing business can handle that. But the core one is the one I was going to get to concerning the question you asked, is Farmcrowdy Aggregation. Now, in Farmcrowdy Aggregation, we connect the farmers with the right input providers, but we also have a trading platform that opens up access for these farmers to sell their produce, not just in Nigeria, but outside Nigeria. We've successfully done this a lot with ginger, with soya on the trader platform. We've exported organic ginger from Nigeria, from somewhere in Kaduna. I say somewhere because if I mention names, you may not know, but it's in the northern part, southern part of Kaduna. We export organic ginger out of there to Dubai, to the UAE. And so people are now buying up organic ginger through the trading platform that we have. We've done a lot of trading locally, so we can get maybe rice from KB and have that sold in Lagos to a buyer that has come through the trader platform to say he wants that particular commodity. So the Farmcrowdy trader is available to farmers within our network to sell their produce, not just within the country, but outside the country, if buyers from outside the country show interest in their commodity.
And also, does Farmcrowdy also have a particular their own cultivated lands by themselves, or do you also just rely on farmers that come to join the network? Do you have your specific lands that you probably employ people, farm crowders, or whatever you want to call them to till the land or farm the land?
Yeah, so we work a lot with farmers on their own land, but we currently have just one project right now where we have one project, maybe it's second later on this year, where we own the farm. I mean, we've leased the land for a period to do our own work on that farm, and that affects maize, and that may affect maybe one or two other commodities. But we also have a facility that helps us to process beef in Lagos, And so we get farmers to work on their farms, and we bring beef into that facility. We're looking at deploying maybe a ranch somewhere around Ogun State. We're looking extensively to working with the Ogun State government on this. We're looking at, but I mean, at the moment, we've stopped. So what we dealt with the risk of working with farmers on their own farms, where they own the farms that they bring, and then we say we are partnering with them. We've slowed down on that and focused on get the inputs, get the expertise, do your production. At harvest, we help you sell.
And there's obviously this key issue of farmers and herders clash, that is ongoing, obviously, in Nigeria. How have you been able to, put that in the back burner for your farmers and obviously for your ranch, and to reassure them that, you know what, guys, whatever might be going on outside there, don't necessarily affect you, because obviously people from Africans, Nigerians in diaspora will always read the news, check what's happening in Nigeria, and the first thing you hear is farmers and herders clash, and you tend to obviously feel, oh, what's going on? So how's that affected Farmcrowdy, and how have you dealt with that?
Early in our project in 2017, we were just, I think, a year and 6 months old. 2018, actually. In Jos, we actually had a major issue where our farmers that were working on our first maize project in Farmcrowdy had this clash, communal clash in the city of Jos, inside Plateau State. And it was a major one that affected our project then. It taught us a lesson immediately that we can't do so much as be responsible for producing food, and also do so much as be responsible for the security that we would have in a city to produce. So we started focusing on how do we do our due diligence to mitigate the risk of finding ourselves in areas where they're at risk of this kind of issues coming up. So when we were still heavy on core production, which is not the case any longer. I mean, core production for us in Farmcrowdy is maybe just 5% of our business. The remaining focuses on all the other things I mentioned. But when we were heavy on core production, we had to include security risk analysis in the areas we had to work in, and that made us to not work in areas that would have really given us very good yields in some of the, especially for grains in Nigeria. You have more of grains in the northern part of Nigeria. There are many very good fertile grounds for this. We had to stop running those projects and then focus more on areas that were a bit safer for us to work, a lot safer for us to work, especially around the Middle Belt, the south, southwest, and part of the country. So this was what we did when we were heavy on core production. Today, the farmers in our network are focused on producing anywhere in the country, and as long as there's an aggregation place for them to bring their commodity to, they can list it on our platform with our tech, and then we can source from them and get them to move the commodity to a particular location that we can mop up from, and then get it to the right buyers. So that's where we are at the moment. We currently focus on this bit of our business to avoid issues around that. I wish and I pray for a time where we can do things a lot more safer in the country. I want to see that happen. I can't provide security solutions in addition to the agri, real estate, and transport solutions I'm working on. Somebody else may be passionate about that, to deal with that. I'm ready to embrace that, to translate that into what Farmcrowdy puts in his business to protect us. But this is how we've dealt with those things. And then just one more thing to say. You know, when people talk about the security concern in the country, there are areas that are really bad, and it affects a lot of businesses there, but it's not the entire country. Because I know that a lot of times the news tends to portray what will get the audience to listen to that story, and you then find yourself in a place where almost everything you're hearing about the country seems to be negative. There are a lot of good things that are happening as well. I'm not saying that these things are not concerns for me. I mean, if I have to travel, I weigh in a lot of those things, whether I'm moving around the country or moving across farms or having meetings. But there are still good things happening, and there are good places you can walk in. There are good things if you do your due diligence well. You can stay off those areas until it becomes safe. Just that I've mentioned it now, it's a lot safer now. I have a previous boss of mine that went there to start his startup. Throughout the period he was running that startup in just before he moved into Abuja for about a year plus to 2 years, there was no issue there. So yeah, it's getting better. We're hoping for the best. But in the meantime, for me, for my business, we do our due diligence and stay in the safe zones.
And obviously, that's the reason for the show, because we tend to hear quite a lot of negative stuff coming out of our country, Nigeria. And the main reason why we showcase this show, not just for Nigeria, but for Africa, is obviously to bring about the exciting things that are happening in Nigeria and indeed in Africa. Example from Crowdy. Onyeka, we're just going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll also take some questions from our viewers putting down questions there. And obviously, we'll talk about Farmcrowdy, and obviously talk about some of all your other projects, especially PlentyWaka, which is something actually very passionate about. So please stay there. If you're watching us, we're still The Way Show. And I've got Onyeka Akumah, founder, CEO, Farmcrowdy. So we're taking a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute. In tune, and special thanks to Onyeka Akumah joining us today. We've been talking about Farmcrowdy, talking about farming business in Nigeria, and breaking news, Onyeka, you scored. Own goal. That's breaking news.
It
The own
goes,
goal.
it
You just
goes,
manage own goal. And you said, man, that you know what? Don't worry. One of these days we'll bring you back. We will talk about football
no problem.
and your beloved Man United. Anyway, so G Williams, one of our viewers, although we've talked about the security issues, also asked questions about how you've been able to deal with currency fluctuations. So how have you been able to deal with that?
Yeah, and when it comes to currency fluctuation, I think it's more from a place where you're heavily, if you're doing a lot with FX trade, and you have to do dealings outside of Nigeria, where we're exporting, the currency fluctuation actually favors any business exporting, because what we've seen is that most of the time you're calling it fluctuations, but I think it's just one-way traffic. It goes up, and it just, I've not seen where the naira has come down in a very long while. I think while doing business, so it's either going up or it's at the same. So you can do your projections either where it is today, or you take on the risk of at least 5%, 5 to 10% over a period. So for us, it's been that from an export-focused business, we've found it, even if this is not good, but then when it goes up, it favors us. When we're moving commodities out of the country, for that reason, it's not bad. It's when you're buying inputs and you're buying things and you're importing some of these inputs into the country that you then have issues around that. So we've not been so heavy on that. We focused more on what is grown locally, what is produced locally, to create inputs for ourselves locally. And then from an export angle, it favors us where we're moving things out. And I mean, the currency fluctuation doesn't really affect us that way. From an investment perspective, however, it's a major problem. We during the days where we were getting people to invest in Farmcrowdy, when we still had the crowdfunding portal, it was exciting to get people to invest from the UK, from the US. We had a lot of interest, and that was because the return on investment was higher than what we were used to in those standardized markets. And so we had a lot of interest from that angle, but we had to shut it down at some point and focus on only Naira domiciled investments, because somebody puts in $1,000 on a farm investment project. You take $1,000 and you convert it into bank rate of today's bank rate of 420,000 naira. You use that to work on maybe 2 maize projects. Maize projects will tend to stay between 3 and 6 months for you to prepare the ground, depending on the season, where you're doing wet season farming. So you prepare the ground, you put it in the ground, you harvest, you get the right buyers, and then you sell. When you sell, you get your money back. So it can take you roughly about 6 months. God help you that the naira is now 450 naira, and you've promised this person that you're going to be paying him maybe 10% of his money. Now you're going to deal with issues around the margins, focused on how much you're getting from the project. But in addition to that, you're going to be dealing with issues around how do you tell this person now that what he gave you $1,000 for, if you're going to be paying him back with his 20%, it's still going to be less than his original investment. So those are issues that we faced then, and we had to shut down the transactions that allowed people, I mean, the channel that allowed people to invest their currency. I was told people you had to get a Nigerian bank account. But since we dealt with those issues around that, getting people to invest, and then we've also gone ahead to stop getting investments from outside into Farmcrowdy for farm projects. We've kind of dealt with that bit. Now, what I see people do is they open Nigerian bank accounts. They can send monies into Nigerian bank accounts and then use their Nigerian bank accounts to do the investment and get their returns in Naira. Now, it's good for you to use that naira to do things in Nigeria, as against converting that to dollars and then having to change it back. So this has been our own sincere way of how we've handled that bit. We can only hope it gets better.
Bumiomo said something about packaging being another issue. That we need to work on our packaging in order to meet with global standard. I
Yes.
suppose he's talking about, yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Standardization, really. Standardization is a major issue around many of the things that our farmers focus on creating or producing in the market. What I see is that, so for instance, when Farmcrowdy wanted to start exporting organic ginger, we then found out that we're only the third organization in West Africa that was getting that license to export organic ginger. Organic ginger is expensive to produce, yeah, but we still found that there are very few people that were ready to go through the process, that were ready to go through the due diligence to get that certification. And so standardization, as much as it's a problem, it's an opportunity also for an entrepreneur to look at it and say, I will be responsible for making sure that all forms of packaging for what we produce here meets international standards and we're able to export it. I mean, one of the things that broke my heart was when I learned that we produce yam in Nigeria and it has to be exported to Ghana before it is eaten in Europe. And
Wow.
when I heard that, I was like, this is crazy. So, I mean, because the yam is sourced from here. And there were rumors about this at some point in time. And that showed me that, so it wasn't a case of what we're producing, but it was a case of how we package what we're producing. And so that's why this person makes a very brilliant point around it. Standardization is an issue. But I see a lot of agencies, Nigerian agencies, coming in to try to work on this and improve standardization. I see a lot of certifications coming up. I see a lot of work being done to try to promote Nigerian produced goods. But it's a lot of work. It's not just for us in the agriculture space who are producing to get it right. I think it also gets into the environment. It gets into how we market ourselves as Nigerians, how we market what we produce as Nigerians, how we build relationships outside of the country and keep trust intact. The reason today in Farmcrowdy we have so much demand for whatever it is we're exporting is just based on the trust factor. People see, so they look at us and say, okay, if every other person feels, I know these guys will do the work well, I know these guys are people we can trust, and it's opening up opportunities for us, but we want to see many more people doing the same because it benefits the entire economy as a whole. So, I think packaging and standardization, I mean, just is that opportunities for us in the future. Gradually, we're getting there. Gradually, we're seeing businesses do. Farmcrowdy is barely 4 years and 6 months old. We're already doing all the things we're doing. There's a lot of reputation we're building. If you have more of us out there, I think it will be changing the narrative eventually.
And Gladys Otubo says, enabling an environment for business survival and livelihood around agri value chain seem to be depleting by the day as policyholders are not stepping up to make it work. This is one root cause.
Yes, I think that's
been?
Packaging problem. Yeah.
Yeah, how's it been with you working within set rules by policymakers in Nigeria and your business looking into Farmcrowdy itself?
Looking into Farmcrowdy, I think for us in Farmcrowdy, we understand the role of government and establishing very strong relationship with them. So as they go about building policies, we want to be involved in the conversations. We don't shy away from the meetings when they were invited to them to just see how these policies are being influenced, so that if there's space for us to also do something to influence it, to work for the benefit of not just us, but every other person in our sector, then let's do that. But in Farmcrowdy's case, however, we were maybe one of the first businesses that took on the crowdfunding model for agriculture the way we did in the entire continent of Africa. And so because we're channeling a new course, it wasn't, I mean, innovation goes before regulation, it goes before. So we just looked at what existed, found an opportunity to do our business, and started off. Within a year to 2 years, we started seeing a lot of policies coming in. We started getting involved. We started getting invited into those conversations to design the policies around what was going to either regulate a sector or create policies to allow the sector to thrive. And so our voice was being heard. Today, we continue to be the leading AgTech platform out of the country, maybe in West Africa. And so it continues to give us that access to influence how these policies are made. Now, that's from a relationship perspective. To what already exists, there's not so much that influences agriculture that will stop anyone from starting something similar to what we're doing today to have an impact on farmers. The environment favors anyone that is creating impact for thousands or millions of people. If you're creating real impact, you will find policies that will favor you, or policies that will be created to make sure that you are sustaining that impact. There is no government, even the worst of them, that turns their back to any business that has real impact. And so in creating your solution, or for us in Farmcrowdy, as long as that continues to be our ethos, that it's not just for the money we're making, but the impact we're having in people's lives, we see a lot of favorable engagement with state governments, with national governments, and we continue to thrive.
And now let's go to PlentyWaka, and I suppose there is something exciting coming up in about 3 days' time. I know you don't want to let the cat out of the bag at the moment, but if you can just let us now make it a roundabout. Okay, I want you to just drive around the roundabout, major roundabout, without navigating left or right, and tell us about PlentyWaka, and obviously what we are looking forward to.
So along with running Farmcrowdy as CEO of Farmcrowdy, I'm also the CEO of PlentyWaka. And when we started the business, we focused on opportunities that sat within states. Today, we've come to see that our technology can do way more than that. And so what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday this week is how PlentyWaka will now not just create the opportunities for people to get the kind of service we have within one domain, but also see us extend this to other cities as well. And so I think in the tidbits, in the teaser, you will see we're mentioning that at least 7 cities will start seeing PlentyWaka's benefit to the transportation sector. It's still a team that is just 1 year and 6 months old, but we're excited about the kind of acceptance from our customers we're getting. We're excited about the acceptance from the transportation companies we're working with that we're getting. We're excited about what Nigerians generally are loving about the brand. So we want to extend this beyond Lagos and Abuja and Delta, where we are, to about 7 cities on Wednesday. So that's part of what we'll be coming out with. There's also a major announcement about some investments coming in, and I think the investments coming in will give us a leeway to doing some exciting stuff in the coming months. So yeah, I think I've done my best for that. I know you said to me.
I don't know, Onyeka, actually, you've actually done more than your best. And just if you're watching, just know that this is an exclusive to the Way Show. Okay, you've not heard this from anywhere else. So if you're going to hear from anywhere else, it'll be probably Thursday morning AM or probably Wednesday PM. Okay, so this is an exclusive from Onyeka here to us.
Yeah, but
so Onyeka,
if I just add to that, I'm very excited about what PlentyWaka has done. In 1 year and 6 months, we've moved. I think by tomorrow it will cross 300,000. Tomorrow or Tuesday, 300,000 people that would have used PlentyWaka service at one point or the other. And it just speaks to how One has been able to create value in the transportation sector where people thought we would survive. People thought we would be able to manage the stakeholders that are already there in that space. People thought we did. In fact, I remember somebody saying to me apparently on social media that somebody should go and talk to Onyeka and tell him that he should focus on being a farmer and stop believing himself that he can do anything in the transportation sector. And then my response to him was, I'm a technology entrepreneur. I'm not a farmer. I've used technology in agriculture. I can use it in any other sector. Like we're doing in PlentyWaka. So all the backlash we got that time, people are now beginning to see, and in usual style, people are even beginning to copy what they see as the success in the team. And this is kudos to the entire team, my co-founders, and the other guys in the team. We're roughly about 30 people in the team at the moment. Everyone has rolled their sleeves and given it the best shot they can give it. And we're also pumped and excited about the future. Last week, we had major conversations around the future. It's looking really, really good for us.
You are a serial entrepreneur. What are we looking at next? I mean, you've gone into real estate. Obviously, you spoke about the tenants your mom and your dad obviously emboldened you with. You talked about you've been in farming, transportation, real estate. What's next for Onyeka and his team?
I'm going to focus on these businesses. I'm not going to do something new. I promised myself that I would focus on agriculture, real estate, and transportation for a while. And I intend doing that. We just recently had an exit of one of my businesses, the fintech one, Crowdyvest. I was excited about that. That's my second exit. And I was excited about that. But I want to do major stuff. So I want to focus on turning these businesses into dominant businesses. I want to make them, people celebrate Farmcrowdy, people celebrate me and the impact Farmcrowdy has had. I want to replicate the same thing in the transportation sector with PlentyWaka. I want to make sure that Farmcrowdy also, 400,000 farmers is about 1.2% of the total farmers in the country. I want to get it to 10% of the farmers in Nigeria, and then maybe have a good chunk of the number of farmers in Africa benefiting from our network. So I'm focused on those goals, and then PlentyWaka, same thing. I'm really very bullish about that opportunity and where we're going with that. So I'm going to focus on that for the next, I don't think I'll do anything new for the next 3 to 4 years. I'll focus on just growing these businesses. And then something I'm passionate about though, which is, but it's not like running a business. It's just investing in secondary school education for brilliant people that don't have the means to do this. So it's something it's my dream that within the next 4 or 5 years, I set up a fund that will focus on anyone that. So because I saw it firsthand while in secondary school, in college, no, not college, secondary school, where people were brilliant. There was a girl that inspired this for me. She's now a medical doctor and she's doing brilliantly well. But while we were in school, I saw her friends were the ones responsible for her school fees because her mom sold bread on the road. And she's done with school, she'll go and sell bread. But this girl consistently came first in the class, consistently. One day, I stumbled on her reading for her exams, and she was reading with a candlelight after they were done selling bread because they didn't have light in the house. Now, that from that experience, this was in 1998, 1999. So it stuck in my head. Then I think it was maybe like 3-4 years ago. I then decided that this is something I'm going to money in. I want to go to schools and identify brilliant minds in secondary school, not primary, not university. Secondary school, identify brilliant minds that genuinely can't afford to pay their school fees, and find ways of supporting them through that. So that's something I would do in the future. But for now, it's turning PlentyWaka into a dominant force in the transportation sector. It's having 3 million farmers in the Farmcrowdy network. It's making sure people have to pay for their homes. I don't have to break sweat to do that, to live in places that they want to live in. So that will be my focus.
And hopefully, well, just to also let you know, breaking news further, I think you're already winning. Man
Thank
United
you.
is still beating West Ham by 1-0. Okay.
Oh,
Well, on that note, Onyeka, I want to really say thank you for coming on the show today. I mean, it's been pleasant talking to you about this vision you've got for not just farming, for the real estate, for transportation, and indeed this last one you've spoken about touching and affecting in a positive way the lives of younger Nigerians coming up who are not, able to, fight, probably live through some of the privileges we have, some of us probably do have now. It's really touching, and it's really a lofty idea, and we can only wish you all the success, all the best, for all the ventures you are at the moment fronting. And obviously, to you and your team members, we want to say a big thank you for what you're doing. It's indeed a lofty project you are working on.
thank
So,
you very much.
thank you so much, Onyeka, and hopefully we'll be calling upon you sometime soon to talk about more about PlentyWaka and obviously the real estate business. Thank you again for joining us on the show, and I think we would be obviously talking a little bit at the end of the show to talk about some other stuff.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
Thanks a
So
lot.
thanks, Onyeka. So thank you all for watching the show. That's the show for today. If you did really like the show today, please don't forget to tell somebody about us, about the Way Show. We tend to showcase the best of Africa, not just in the African continent, but Africans in diaspora, just like we continue to do in this program. It's been a wonderful edition. I want to say special thanks to my colleague Yomi, who is the co-producer of the show. Special thanks to everyone that's made comments on the show today. I'm just going to read a few names: Bumi, C, Tokwe, Gladys, Soji, Sandra, Boniface, and who said Onyeka is just it's a big inspiration to everyone. Thank you for that, Boniface. To Ijoma and Exbasa, I want to say thank you. Please, if I have not mentioned your name, do forgive me. To Soji Williams said, this has been an amazing show. I showed up at the invitation of a friend thinking I would stay for just a bit and ended up staying till the end. Wow, touching. Thank you, Soji. Please make sure you join us to next Sunday. All right. This comes up Sunday, 8 p.m. GMT. So not, I don't know if you're in Nigeria, Soji. If you are, it's 9 p.m. Your time in Nigeria. So Ijoma, special thanks to you for joining us on the show. Please don't forget to tell somebody about this show. Subscribe to this show. Okay. It always comes up Sundays about this time. It's about 8 p.m. GMT. And we hope to see you all next week. And before I go, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers there, and to obviously to my two mothers. No, actually three mothers I've got. My biological mother, Cecilia, and to my wife, the one mothering me at the moment, that's Sandra, and obviously to my little girl, my daughter, who also looks after me at Chelsea. Happy Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to every mother out there. Okay, have a wonderful week ahead of you, and please don't forget to stay safe, whatever you do. All right. Good night, and have a nice weekend. Sorry, good night.